can't or won't put before a judge and jury. Well, we'll get the details later on.
We decided to celebrate David's birthday. It took a little bit of courage on David's part. No way could I have done it as a surprise, but he agreed to it. But one bit that I kept as a surprise was me dressing up as Tina Turner. And the song is Simply the Best, You're Simply the Best, which is what I thought about David for the way that he actually reacted to the condition of MND. I think he was really quite amused that I could try to be Tina Turner. But we had a connection with the song because we'd been to see her perform, so it was all about that, really. I think the thing about MND is that it is a fatal disease. We know that people are going to die with it, from it. It is a condition that affects the neurons that work the muscles, the moving muscles. So it can be hands, it can be feet, it can be legs, and it can also be the muscles that make speech. And the muscles that are needed for speech are also the muscles that you use for swallowing and chewing. So in terms of that, it's quite a devastating disease in as much as it can affect your ability to eat, to move, to walk, and also to fine movements, picking up things, maintaining posture, that sort of thing. My husband his speech started slurring. So if you didn't know him, you would think he's drunk, which is very upsetting for the person. That he was able to talk, but then he had to use a light writer, which is a machine that he could type into. And he was able to because he had the ability in his arms still and his fingers. And then the voice would come out. Then his ability to chew and swallow, his breathing was affected, and then later his left leg was affected. But actually, he was able to walk for the duration of the condition till 2 weeks before he died. And other people might have everything, but for David, that's how his experience, and that's why. You can't really tell people how their condition is going to progress. And I say progress, not in a positive way, in a negative way, if you like. It's a deterioration. But there are people, will be eating a steak dinner the day before they die, so we don't really know. There are also people who live quite a long time with it. Sort of 20 years, perhaps. It's very unusual. And Stephen Hawkins, who you probably heard of, he has been living with it for over 40 years. But he's the exception rather than the rule. The average, half of the people with MND actually die within 14 months of the diagnosis. My husband lived with MND for 3 years and 8 months. The diagnosis actually took about 6 months. He first saw a doctor in the July, and the week before Christmas he was given this clinical diagnosis. And I think that was the hard time, that time between seeing a doctor and getting the diagnosis. It's really strange because we almost hoped it might be a tumour. And that might sound a bit strange, but if it was a tumour, we had a chance that it could be removed and he could return to normal. By then we knew that motor neurone disease, once we mentioned it, what it could do and what it was like. So it was really, really hard. There were a lot of tears as we thought about it and what it meant. And telling the family was awful. And then after that initial bit, David felt like, was it going to be worth living? What was going to happen to him? You know, how would he cope with it? And of course that was scary for me, hearing him talk about it in that way. But I think that's not unusual, and you need time to get used to the idea. And we had that time. He sort of turned it around in his own head and decided that, no, this is something I can live with. I will do everything that I can. One of the things that we did once he was diagnosed was by having things to look forward to. So the first things we did was we had this wonderful holiday in California.
Hello, how are you?
That first period of time after David died was quite difficult for me. It took time, but I think work helped me to get through.
That's nice.
If you'd like some shortbread.
Some of your lovely shortcake.
And it was an important part of that process, of that grief process, to have some sort of focus, to have a reason, to get up every morning. And what was odd was that when I finished work, and the first times when I came home, of course David wasn't sitting in this armchair, and so that was quite hard. But things have moved on. It's 10 years now, and I still have plenty to do. I've worked with the association as a volunteer, say fundraising. I was on the committee for a while, helping with all those sorts of things that we do. So the association became quite a big part of my life, and has been all through that 10 years. The association is very important because it is the only charity that actually works for people who actually live with motor neurone disease. So to me that's really, really important. And one of the things I like about the charity is the fact that they're very inclusive. They try to involve their membership. Visiting people with motor neurone disease, you know that everybody that you visit is going to die in a short space of time. And therefore the association makes sure that you have support. Now is what I do the most, visiting people who live with MND. And we talk about people living with MND rather than actually suffering from it, because what our aim is to do is to make life better, as normal as possible. So we don't like to use the word suffer. There's no doubt that people do suffer, but we try to make it that you live with it and you're not dying from it. Yeah, you sounded as if you tried, and I know that's not uncommon for people to do that. Did you encounter any problems? Did you feel upset when people thought maybe you might be drunk?
Yeah, I remember
Children? Children commented. Did it upset you? Yeah. It made you realise, it brought it home to you that maybe you needed to see somebody, a doctor, about it. Yes. So was that sort of, that reinforced what you already thought? No, it was really, that brought it to the fore. Yes. MND is a very difficult condition to diagnose. There's no diagnostic test. and it's more a question of eliminating other conditions. No, you didn't guess at that moment in time. There has been very little research in the past.
My name is Christine Hull. I am using a computer to speak for me.
It's sort of in the 90s that the research really started. You have to raise awareness with the general public, and you have to raise money, and all those things go hand in hand. The association meetings are held bi-monthly. It's another place for fundraising. We have a raffle, and it's really a social meeting. It's a coming together of people, like-minded people, and I think the beauty of it is that if somebody has MND and they're coming to the meeting, if they've got a problem with mobility or with swallowing or chewing, and we're having a cup of tea and a biscuit, people feel comfortable to be fed in front of everybody else. Well, we hope that's the case. Some people don't want to do that, but it's comfortable enough because we've all been there. It's something we feel like a family, I suppose. So it's quite an important part. We have to look forward and hope that someday soon there might be some sort of breakthrough in the treatment of MND. And I think when it does come, it'll stop MND in its tracks. Whenever it is, I hope I live to see that day when MND is something of the past. And that is my hope. And it would have been David's hope.